Okay, good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us for our second session in the Coffee Talk series, which will be happening once a month. We are glad you are joining us today, and we do have three special guests, and they will probably introduce themselves a little bit more, but they are going to be talking about the career scholarship accounts. And we have with us Scott Berghoff from the DOE, Jose Medina from the Commission for Higher Education, and Parker Zent from the Treasurer of State. So thank you all three for being with us today. The slide deck is there on the screen at the bottom. I will also drop that into the chat here in just a second in case you do want to follow along with those slides. We are recording this session, as we will always do, so that for those of you who may need to jump off a little early, or if you want to go back and watch anything over again, it will be accessible to you later on. Again, we have our three special guests, and then my name is Amanda Culhan. I coordinate Counselor Connect, which is a statewide support network for school counselors and school social workers. So again, glad you're with us, and I'm going to not waste any more time, and I'm going to go ahead and hand the screen over to Parker, if I can find my thing. Sorry. All right, there we go, Parker. Sorry about that.
Okay, no, you're good. Thank you everyone so much for joining. And Amanda, thanks again for having us. Any opportunity we have to just share more about the CSA program, I'm sure all of you have heard chirpings or different, just different things going on since it's so new. And it's also obviously very, relevant to different students having different opportunities and how to navigate those with your students and everything like that. So we're just really happy to connect today. My name is Parker Zent. I'm with the Treasurer of State's office. I'm more of sort of the student application, student-facing side of the program, as well as the bank, hence the treasurer part, and dispersing all of those funds and things like that. So yeah, I guess I'll just pass it over to my colleague, Scott, the department.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. My name is Scott Berghoff, and I work at the Department of Education, and our role is to approve CSA programs. I will pass it over to Jose.
Everyone, thank you for having us. I'm Jose Medina with the Indiana Commission for Higher Education. The Commission for Higher Education is tasked with approving the providers as it comes to CSAs or career scholarship accounts. We'll talk a little bit more in details about what that entails, specifically how DOE and CHE work kind of together to approve both of those simultaneously. But I'm going to pass it back to Parker, who will get us started.
Awesome. Thanks again. Amanda, should I just go ahead and share my screen then? And
yeah,
I'll just share the presentation and walk through that. So everyone bear with me here for a second. I'm more of a Teams person. But we can manage here. Let me see. Slideshow from beginning. All right. Guessing, are you guys seeing the presentation side real quick?
We see that, like the presenter with the notes.
Yeah, I always screw this up here. Hold on.
That's okay. And if you need me to, I'm glad to share my screen again too.
Yeah, can you share real quick back again, Amanda? Because I clicked the wrong screen. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yep. I'll go ahead and let me get. Okay. Yeah.
Scott and Jose are like, Parker, you did this a few days ago. Can you get your crap together here? All right.
It's coffee talk. It's casual. It's fine. Okay. Can you see
Wonderful.
my opening slide now?
Yes. And I'm going to click the right
screen
along here. We should be good to go now, right?
Oh, you're back up.
Are we good? Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'll just get us started. And thanks so much again, everyone, for joining. I know also you're like super crazy busy, I'm sure, with all the students being back. My mother works in back of the front office at my high school. And so I know these first few weeks, like getting the plane up and flying is a struggle. So I really appreciate your time. And so we'll just get started. Again, my name is Parker Zent. I'm with the Treasurer of State's office, program manager of the CSA program. So we'll just start with, what is the CSA program? So the CSA program provides $5,000 annual scholarship accounts to students 10th through 12th grade looking to pursue internships, apprenticeship, or other applied learning experiences. So these funds can be used for a whole slew of things, enrollment fees for post-education, and training, career coaching and navigation services, transportation services, equipment, supplies, uniforms, certification and credentialing exams, and yeah, and more. And so really it's just designed for students having everything they need and more for success for these programs, getting them to participate and just, yeah, really be able to thrive in these work-based learning programs. So why does CSA exist? As you all know, we already have career and technical education, which we'll get more. How do those things coexist together? CSA and CTE programming. I'm sure you might have questions on that, so we'll get into that. But we'll just get to the origin of CSA. It's a strategy of the high school redesign initiative, if you guys have heard of, I'm sure, sort of moving into trying to consider how to adequately prepare students for not just getting through sort of the graduation line, but also the Monday after graduation, having them be prepared for whether it's workforce, enrollment in post-secondary or enlistment. And so, that's obviously starting with giving them this career navigation and coaching sort of at an early age, helping them figure out what interests them, that they do have value and interests that they can be applied to real world experiences that we'd like to provide to them, help develop them in, getting them ready for post-graduation. So yeah, this really came out of a need to address generational poverty. That's the author of the legislation, Representative Chuck Goodrich. As you guys have heard, probably he is the CEO of Gaylor Electric, which is a pretty large company in Indiana. And he was like, someone just took a chance on me when I was a young kid that was sort of directionless and not very motivated. And the opportunity changed everything. And so this is sort of the goal of work-based learning in general, helping students to see like, okay, I do have skills and talents and unique interests, and we can apply these in the future. And so the three unique CSA goals, though, as I mentioned before, we already have career and technical ed, but what's sort of unique with CSA is that we're trying to increase credentialed work-based learning opportunities. All these programs are either making significant headway towards resulting in a credential or certification, or they do just result in a credential after graduation, or they can be multiple, even during their program or at the end as well. It's also to overcome barriers for underserved students. And so the reason why this sort of can apply, these funds can apply to so many things is traditional things like transportation or book fees or out-of-pocket costs like equipment and materials that would prevent a lot of students from participating before in work-based learning. They can use those funds to pay for those things, and so that's not an issue any longer. And then lastly, it's to increase innovative employer-led work-based learning experiences. The plan sort of with CSA was trying to mirror sort of how we're moving in an economic sense of the state into some non-traditional pathways. Maybe something like we have cybersecurity, we have a few cybersecurity programs, just some programs that maybe don't have a traditional CTE pathway route that we're trying to seek those out and say, hey, these do have value and we can see how this is going to be really beneficial for students in the future, helping them sort of get on board for CSA and give kids funding for those opportunities, as well as really getting them at the employer site, where we see so much value in different CTE centers, career centers, but also we see a value in getting the kid at the employer site, having them work on the most up-to-date technology in whatever field it is, because as we see often, these are just businesses and employers that they're business. So to keep up and to keep thriving and prospering, they need the most up-to-date things, and they can see sort of what employer culture looks like, and working with folks and really increase those employability skills that we talk about a lot. We believe in that as well, and that's sort of what the CSA is for. So these are just a few snapshots of student profiles we like to share to sort of make it a little more practical in your minds of what CSA can be utilized for. So here it's like Ben gets a jump start on the career by using funds to pay for expenses of a healthcare program with tuition, scrubs, stethoscope, transportation as well to get there. Jason finds an apprenticeship that aligns with his childhood passion of working on cars, covers all the associated costs with that. And then the last is Anne expands her experience. Perhaps she was interested in an IT field, but then she decides to try out a cybersecurity program because there's funding for that, and really decides that cybersecurity is more of an aligned pathway for her and more of a specific profession for her at an early age, where it can be hard to sort of figure some of that stuff out. So it's a little bit of what in a practical way CSA looks like. Student eligibility, three really basic things. You just got to be a resident of Indiana and 10th through 12th grade and enrolled in an approved CSA program. And this is where I hand it off real quick to the Department of Ed and Commission on the call to talk a little bit about the program requirements.
Yeah, so there's really 5 main principles that we look for in a program, but really there's one North Star, and that North Star is the credential of value. And we will get to that, but employer driven. So we really want community involvement in these programs. We want employers kind of designing programs and working with the school and working with the students to meet the needs of the student, meet the needs of the school, and meet the needs of the employer. So it's a win-win-win for everybody involved. But really the biggest win is for the student. We need to make sure that the student's getting what they need for their future. And then that North Star is the credential of value. That's really what we're looking for the most when an employer is talking about a program that they're looking to create. We want the end of the experience to culminate in a credential of value, and that could be a welding certificate or a CNA or the Indiana College Core. Just something like that the student will be able to use to help propel themselves forward in the future. The work-based learning requirement, it's a minimum of 75 hours, and those 75 hours could come over the span of 3 years, or they could all come in the last semester of senior year. But we are looking for a minimum of 75 hours of work-based learning. And then supporting high school graduation requirements. Essentially what this means to us is that a student that does participate in a program, we don't want that to be a hindrance towards the student graduating. If the student is maybe credit deficient, maybe the CSA program isn't right for them until they're back on track and heading towards graduation. And then lastly, we want these programs to be aligned to the student's career and college pathways, whatever that may be. If a student is very insistent on going to college, maybe the Indiana College Core or an associate's degree would be a good pathway for them, and using the CSA for that. But if the student's passionate about working on cars, there's programs in auto body shops and learning that kind of work. And so from there, I'll pass it over to Jose, who will talk a little bit more about the provider side.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Scott. Gave great information on here. I just have a few things just kind of to add on. So early on, when we started the application process for programs from providers, we realized that we were kind of asking for the same things, and it just made more sense to combine the application into one to more seamlessly improve that process for everyone involved. So DOE and CHE, we get together. We try to do once a week. At worst, every other week to meet to go over the applications, to have to go ahead and really just look at the applications and have them approved, or get back with the applicants to see what we need to work on. Like Scott said, these are the 5 areas that we look at, but we also look at budget and other things. And we don't outright decline anyone. We usually try to go back and try to work with them because we believe every applicant has something to provide. So we really try to work with them because we know this is a fairly new program, a little bit over a year old, and we really want to work with them to really give students the largest menu to select from CSA programs and providers. So another thing that I want to say is, and it's probably going to come up on the next slide, is every application works really different. Not one that I can think of provider or program looks exactly the same and are offering the same things. Thank you for switching the slide over. So you'll see here's a whole bunch of different list of providers and programs that we offer. So you don't have to do every single thing. And I know I'm talking, to people that are at school, so counselors and social workers. But when, if you're interested in CSAs, don't feel like you need to offer every single thing in order to be approved as a provider. So we have a lot of providers that kind of act as intermediaries, which I know is the word that we throw around a lot, especially as it comes to, high school redesign. Where we really, really encourage partnerships more than anything. So let's say you are an organization, you're an employer, you can offer that workplace experience, but you don't know if you can offer that college credit necessarily. That's something out of your ballpark that you're not very, very familiar with. So maybe partnering with Ivy Tech or another certification program they can offer that for the students is really great. Working with schools specifically if you're an employer is also really helpful. It's something that we look at in applications to see, okay, have you thought about, what schools you want to work with students? Is there a need there more than anything? So don't feel overwhelmed like you need to do every single thing to have, you need to take it all yourself. Really leverage those partnerships you already have with your local employers or intermediaries or other community partners as well. Here are a list of our current, some of our current providers. You'll see on here is a wide range. I'm going to go ahead and signal. I know each of us kind of has favorites we like to talk about, but I'm going to talk about Cherry Automotive Group. They do a wonderful job working with students, and they really hold one of the pillars of the CSA program, which they say, when they work with students and after they finish the program, they said, they feel inclined, not inclined per se, but they feel really strongly that, once they're done with their program, they can hire someone on it if they really want to, or if the students are prepared to take on other jobs in the automotive sector. So that's one of the programs that we want. We want them to have that pathway if they choose to some type of employment if they choose to, so they can see that clear path that goes straight from high school, secondary education straight into the work path. So I'm going to pass it off to Scott and Parker to talk about some of their favorites. I know Parker definitely has a favorite that he's just itching to talk about. So
Sure, I can go real quick, Scott, and then you can finish. So yeah, as you can see again, as Jose mentioned, we have a wide variety of providers, and really, and you can see here, they can be employers, they can be schools, they can be nonprofits, can be intermediaries. Really, what we call a provider is who is the point person in sort of helping just connect the dots for these students. Maybe if you're a school and you want to be a provider, maybe the employer you're working with is doing the chunk of the work-based learning experience and the instruction there, but they just need someone that sort of connects the dots and helps students get signed up, or helps with the reimbursement process with our office to ensure that those things are all squared away. It's usually who sort of has the capacity. And we just, we encourage those in the community, whoever has the capacity to sort of take that step for the kids, to sort of be the point person as the provider, and then work with whoever they'd like to work with to provide everything needed for the student for the program, if that makes sense. And we'll be taking questions later, as I'm sure you have a lot. But as Jose mentioned, I'm from Goshen, Indiana. So Goshen Fire Department is a little bit of a pride point on here for me. They just have a really cool program. I think they're taking at least 10, maybe 20 students this year. And they go through a year of the programming. They provide, I believe it's a traditional CT pathway, and they get all the fire department training needed for after graduation, being ready to be a firefighter. And it's just, I think it's really cool, some of these programs that provide kids with results right away of that option of, if this is really their dream, if this is really what they would like to do, it's like you're already prepared and ready to start. And a lot of these programs, they are built to have multiple on and off ramps. Perhaps they're providing college credit. We encourage these programs to be like, provide everything that could be possibly great for these kids. Provide college credit, provide a great industry credential at the end, provide whatever it is, like all these skills and different metrics built in to prepare these kids for whether it's post-secondary or work right after school, or a little bit of both, whatever it may be. We really encourage that. But Goshen, they prepared the kids for being a firefighter right away. I asked them, hey, how long does it take an adult to receive this training and these credentials to be a firefighter? And they're like, well, at least 6 months, multiple days per week of training and Saturdays throughout those 6 months can cost, I think, $2,000 to $3,000 or something. It's pretty significant, and these students can just have that. If you're an adult trying to get that, you're gonna have to probably work part-time to still care for yourself and your family as well, and trying to get this training. And I just think it's really, really cool providing kids like these opportunities. They give them results right away, give them a really cool path right away, and something that obviously we treasure in firefighters and service like that. So Scott, I'll pass it on to you to talk about your favorite providers. I was also going to just right away, and we're going to take questions in the end, but if Scott, or if you or Jose could mention a little bit, how do you see some of our providers sort of working with the schools to help ensure this fits with the student's schedule. I know we have a lot of counselors on the call. You know, it's like, I guess right away I see it as they work with a lot of these providers of the automatic work-based learning sort of instructors for some of these traditional CT pathways. Other circumstances it's not. If you guys could just touch on that a little bit too to help inform, I think that would be helpful just during these slides too.
Yeah, in some of these programs, some of the providers actually have summer programs for the student. That makes it pretty easy to slide it into their schedule when they're not in school. But if there's a course that's not necessarily providing a student credit or like a dual credit course, I have been recommending to people that they use, I believe it's the course code 0530, the career exploration internship. So that's one way that you can fit some of these things into a student schedules where they are still getting elective credits and able to have these opportunities. But one of my favorite programs is the partnership between Cardinal Ritter High School and an HVAC company called Armor Air. When we met with Armor Air originally, they were talking about how if they were to just hire somebody up off the street, the students that they have in their program will have about twice the amount of training as somebody that they'll pick up just to work a truck. And they really do invest in their students, and it was just really cool to hear all about in the past that they provide for the students that are partnered with them.
Awesome. Yeah, no, they're a really cool group over there. Yeah, so thanks for sharing, gentlemen. We'll get into now some of the implementation side. As you all know, there's some interesting details here that's like, how does this work? I'm on, again, the financial side of the program. So this is more of, my leeway here, or alleyway here. So let me get into it here a little bit. So implementation of the CSA, specifically regarding the funds, we primarily utilized the number one option. We sort of have two options this year. So last year, the only option provided was the a la carte program. And so how that would work was generally, well, this was the whole, this is how everybody did it actually. So a parent student signs up for CSA, you know, they apply, they get approved. A digital financial account is created in the student/parent's name. They then have the responsibility to go and sort of shop for the type of program they want. And then they'd also have to shop for all the associated costs, materials, things needed for the program. So once they did that, they'd have to find an approved CSA provider. That provider then would have to provide the program and any services materials ahead of time to the student, give them an invoice for them to upload to our office via our financial management system. And then we would have to approve that or deny it if it was not an approved expense. And then once we'd approve it, we'd get the provider reimbursed from the student's account. So as you can see, bit of a triangular system. It's still offered for this year, but we just, we just took a lot of feedback. The program was sort of created overnight, year one. It was, sort of drawn out in a month or less. And this was sort of how it was ran. And again, it works for some students. A lot, though, we were receiving the feedback of, hey, like, parents are sort of used to sending their kid off to a program and knowing, or at least hoping, it's a great program and everything's taken care of. And it's difficult to sort of know everything that's possibly needed for your son's or daughter's welding program or CNA or CCMA program. And, oh, we chose the wrong work boots and we got the wrong tool belts and we got the wrong welding mask. And so we have to return and we have to deal with all sort of the finances and logistics around that. And so it was difficult for them. And that was unfortunate, as well as providers had to rely on the parents to upload those invoices to get reimbursed for their services. And so sometimes they just wouldn't want to hop on because that's just hard trying to chase parents or students around, or the receipt gets lost, and just a lot of things. And again, it works for some. That's why it's still an option this year. But the majority of our programs for this year, year two, have gone this all-inclusive route. And so that is a provider/program tells us, hey, Parker, we're providing everything needed and more for success for this program. So we're providing the tuition and instruction. Maybe it's paired with college credit, or it's just the general CTE instruction, whatever it may be. We're providing all the technology and equipment and uniform and career counseling services maybe, and transportation services we've worked out on our end, or we've worked out with the school or whatever it may be. We're providing everything needed and more. If you tell me that, I can say, that's great. You can just work with our office on reimbursement, sort of send us in a quarterly spreadsheet with a list of all your students, all the costs, just categorically of your students. We're not even really demanding actual receipts right now. It's more so we're looking for anomalies in the invoicing. Like if Tommy was charged $500 for a uniform, but Sally was charged $50, we're going to ask some questions. But really, we're just looking categorically if the costs all really make sense regarding the industry and everything that we've been told and inquired about that they're providing. And yeah, we can get them reimbursed in 7 days or less quarterly if they send us those spreadsheets. And so this is allowed for parents to just, let that responsibility be on the provider. They sort of just become the managers of those accounts, and they know exactly what's needed for the programs. They get all these, materials and equipment in bulk cost, so it's cheaper for the kids. And yeah, it's really seemed to be a lot smoother this year, and people are a lot more able to, utilize the program for good. It seems the programs are more robust, and yeah, so that's sort of where we've gone now with implementation. And again, we can field some more questions too in the end. But let me get to this piece that I'm sure a lot of you have questions about. It's the CSA and CTE. How do these work together? Are they in conflict? Are they working in tandem? What's the situation here? So a student cannot be simultaneously CSA and CTE funded. That's just in code. That's something that we have to deal with. The reality of this is a CTE program can be approved as a CSA program if they meet those program requirements that Scott and Jose lined up for us. But the cost the cost of the courses will utilize a significant amount of the CSA dollars. And so, as you guys know, normally it's like if it's a concentrator A or B course for CTE, it's $714 or so of funding that schools traditionally get for those courses. That can add up to be a big chunk of the students' CSA dollars. They'll still have left over, let's say your students are taking an average of 3 CTE courses, that's about $2,142 or something in funding. They'll still have about $2,800 left over to utilize for whatever they need, whether it's transportation barriers or more equipment, materials, an extra pair of scrubs, more career counseling services, whatever they really need for their program and developing them for the future, they can utilize those dollars for. And I mentioned that there. The only piece that can be difficult, and this is where we have sort of pushed or encouraged schools as well to be sort of the point person with CSA programs. Maybe they're not providing the program like I mentioned earlier, like all the instruction and everything. Maybe the employer is doing that, or your CT center or whatever may be is doing that. But if you're the point person, the only time that it seems like CTE courses can go unfunded to the school is if a kid is, let's say, in a welding program, and they're taking a couple CTE courses that are in that pathway associated with that program, but they're also taking like a business course on the side or some other CTE course on the side, to where if the employer is sort of the manager of the funds, as we mentioned before, in this sort of all-inclusive model of them being the managers, it's going to be like, well, we already planned on paying for those courses and everything else needed for this program. We don't see why Johnny's CTE course, that's a business course or whatever it may be on the side, should be a part of the program. We don't see how we should go to the school and reimburse them for those, because that's not a part of our program. So that's the conflict here, and that's one of the main things that I would like changed in code this coming year for the legislative session. Very limited capabilities on my end, but I'm optimistic that will be changed, that disassociated courses will still get the funding to the school, while the other funding or the other courses associated with the program can still be paid out of the CSA dollars. And so that's a little bit where we're at right there, but that's just one of the things that normally it just seems to be a funding swap with seniors or juniors that maybe are just taking these CTE courses, align with their pathway in the program that is their CSA program, It's just a funding swap, and they have all this leftover cash to support them. Maybe if you have sophomores that are taking a handful of different CTE courses, that maybe just the CTE, traditional CTE funding is just better for them and for the school and for their programs. That's totally fine. It's just something that we're navigating right now. We still think it can be a very, very helpful tool for these students that have barriers, or that more just in this one track currently in junior, senior year or so. So why choose CSA? I'm already mentioning it. I feel like all these slides just sort of run together, but providing students opportunities, utilizing the CSA where you have CTE gaps. And so maybe you guys feel like there's a demand of a healthcare program or something at your school, or students would really benefit from a healthcare program or a construction program or whatever it may be. There's tons of different programs, but it's like 10 or 15 or 20 students only. And so you don't have enough funding to sort of hire another CTE instructor and build out that shop at your CTE center or in-house at your school or whatever it may be. And so it can be helpful just partnering with an employer in your community, utilizing the CSA funding so that they can get that programming without sort of having to take all of those initial investments yourself. It can be really helpful in sort of plugging those CTE gaps. Or if you have limited funding to send kids to CTE programming, I know that often the CTE programs cost more than the funding you're getting. And so you also have to kick in that ADM as well. So you have limited amount of funds, limited amount to send your kids to these programs. Have some kids sign up for CSA then, so then you can get more kids in those CTE programs that would be really beneficial to them. Serving the underserved, as well as I mentioned, we have plenty of schools in the area that are CSA providers, and because they're program population, they have some students that maybe they're taking 3 or 4 CTE courses, and that takes $2,100 or $2,800 out of their $5,000 per year. They have all that extra funding to pay for services they critically need, whether it's transportation, extra, the book fees, credentialing costs, all of that can really be helpful for these underserved students that wouldn't be able to afford these programs. And lastly, it's the community support and growth piece that I think is important in creating these employer partnerships and pipelines with the community. That students have a place to work back at home. I'm from Goshen. I live in Indianapolis now. There's just not the opportunities in Goshen, I'd say, and I like it there. And I think it's important to continue to build this community growth and interconnection, so kids have a spot, whether they graduate from high school or they go off to college. They still have a spot because they worked with an employer that they built great connections with, and they knew was just a great work climate for them. They have a place back at home, and so we think that's really important too with the CSA program. This is one of the pathways that I just enjoy sharing a lot. That I think again makes CSA come to life. Here it said Ben aims for a career in healthcare to help people. He's worried about affording college. His counselor suggests a healthcare program and utilizing the CSA funding for the program costs. It pays for the college credit as well as the scrubs, stethoscope, transportation, and everything needed for the program. And so the student ends up graduating with a CNA or a CCMA certification, has already knocked out college credit. So college is cheaper for them. They can work at the hospital on the weekends while going to a 4-year institution or something. And so all of a sudden this reality becomes a lot more real, that they can go to college. That's a pathway for them because we provided them an experience with multiple on and off ramps to benefit them. And so lastly, why choose CSA? The student impact is why we're here. This is one of our favorite quotes from a parent of ABC Prep Academy, which is one of our providers. They said, "We cannot say enough great things about this program. It has been a game changer for our son. This program has given him confidence and pride in what he is learning and doing. Keep up the good work you all do." Just a piece that I think work-based learning in general really can provide. I'm sure you guys see students all the time that maybe they're just uninterested in their coursework. They're not showing up very much. They don't see how any of this applies. Maybe they're looking at the entire world in their hands via their phones and seeing that it's out of control and chaos, and where do I have a place and why does anything matter at all? I think it's so beneficial to get kids in these experiences that show that they do have value and they do have skills and it can be developed and they do have a place after high school or even right now that they can really apply themselves and be a contributor. And so that value piece is what really gets me. And so again, these programs and experiences are to explore interests, gain experience, and attain skills or credentials so these kids can be prepared after high school. And so that's really all we got. And so we're happy to take questions now. Again, thanks so much for listening. It can be a little long-winded, so thanks for putting up with me and giving us your time.
Thank you. There are a few questions in the chat, and I know some of which have been responded to as we've gone, but just to make sure everybody has seen responses and maybe for those that were not answered yet. The first question was, do the students receive the money to make purchases for needed supplies, or do the businesses receive the money to purchase the supplies for the students, or is it both?
Great question.
And I know
So yeah, that's the difference between sort of the two invoicing options we have this year. So really, we only have a couple providers that have told us, hey, Parker, we're only providing, like, let's say Ivy Tech is one of our providers. They're only providing coursework for students. And so they're not providing everything else needed for the program, like transportation or equipment and materials and books. They've told us like that's all we're going to provide. And so they can't be an all-inclusive provider that sort of manages students' accounts. If students just pick, like maybe they're an Indiana College Core student and they pick Ivy Tech or IU or Ball State as a provider, they then have the responsibility with the parent to go out and sort of shop for the supplies and materials and services they need for success there. 98% of our providers are the all-inclusive option where they have the responsibility of going and purchasing equipment and technology and whatever it may be for the student for them to succeed in the program.
Thank you. The other question was, to be an approved program, one of the key elements needed was the opportunity to earn the credential of value. And we did get a response in the chat. That's correct. That is one that we look at the closest when looking at the provider applications. Any more to add to that, or that pretty much answer that question?
I think that answers that. Scott, Jose, we good there?
And then I wanted to ask too,
I do want to add something. Sorry, Amanda. I do want to add something that I think the key is opportunity, Stephanie. And I wanted to say that, and then I was like, oh, I want to go back and type another thing again because we'll probably talk about it. Some of our programs don't end at Credential Valley. However, they're set up to earn it afterwards because, again, the provider. I think Parker, I want to say, I don't want to give credit to Scott when Parker said it, is a lot of providers act as account managers, so they won't essentially offer that credential value, but however, they have that partnership to be like, hey, we set you up to, for example, to earn the credential value or take that certification at this ABC partner, essentially. So the opportunity is really the key word there, Stephanie.
Thank you for that. And the application deadline, isn't that coming up here soon? I don't know that. Is it October 1st? Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. And we are all but at capacity now, right? To be honest with all of you. We still were like, this was in the books too, and we still find it beneficial as your students inquire about CSA and navigating it for now and for the future. But yeah, if you are considering applying, it's great to get the ducks in a row and everything lined up for next year. We're doing the provider application as on a rolling basis. Right now, it's like, yeah, we're all but capacity with student sign up, and yeah, now it's more so if we have kids that drop out of the program or so, that they can fill spots. So if you have a few kids or so that you're like, oh, we would really try, it's worth giving a shot if you want to try to have them apply. That's more than fine. It's just right now we're about full.
Good to know. Thank you. Okay, well, I'm going to, unless our presenters have anything to add, please feel free to drop any additional questions into the slides. I'm just going to share a few things on these last few slides. I will drop in if you want to fill out the very short session evaluation, you can also receive a PGP for attending this chat. So that is now in the slide deck, or I'm sorry, in the chat. Just some upcoming events I wanted to mention. We have some in-person events this month, a day-to-day workshop, and then an Engage and Renew workshop. Both are going to be awesome events. They're in Indianapolis. So register soon. That first one is September 10th, which is already coming up next week. So take a look. You can just click on the graphics in the slide deck to be taken to more information and the registration pages. Lots of virtual events happening. Many of these are free. Some of them do cost. The AI in School Counseling with Dr. Russell Sabella, there is a cost to that one. but those others on the screen there are all free. So be sure to check out those events. Also wanted to mention we are going to be doing a year-long cadre to support school counselors in their first or second year practicing as counselors. That will include professional learning and also them being paired to a mentor. So if you have any new counselors in your district, please share this information with them. And then we have a counselor leadership cadre year 2 that we started this last year. It was a year-long cadre. We had hatching results come in and present to us. This year, we are taking all that information that was learned, and we are going to learn how to better apply that information. So please check that out if you are a counselor in a leadership position at the district or building level. Finally, if you have a suggestion for a future coffee talk, you can click on the suggestion box there and it will take you to a very short Google form. I am looking at those. We already have our October 8th meeting scheduled, and that will be on the career discovery meetings. And Jose will be joining us again to share information on that. So thank you to you, Jose. But if you want to suggest a topic for November or December, please take a minute to drop your ideas there. Finally, some resources I wanted to mention. All of our content is accessible in one place. So our on-demand webinars, blogs, podcast episodes, DIY PD guides, check those out at the digital content library. Save that. We're always adding new resources to that. The Indiana School Counseling Curriculum Library, if you want counseling lessons, this is a great place to go. This was just developed over the last school year. There are at least 3 lessons per grade level covering all 3 counseling domains of academic, social, emotional, and career. Plus, we have lessons in there to meet state required student instruction, bullying prevention, child abuse prevention, and graduation planning. So check that out. And then finally, the counselor calendar. Everything that you would ever want to know about happening is available in that one-stop calendar. So be sure to check that out. Bookmark it, check it often. And then last is just contact information. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And with that, I'm going to look back at the chat. It doesn't look like we've had any more questions added. So thank you everyone for your time. Thank you again to our wonderful presenters. We appreciate you. And we will see all of you at the next session in October. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Hope to see some of you in October.
Thank you.